Hi, it seems like we have a couple of people joining us at the moment. Can I get a show of hands quickly? I think you can raise your hand somewhere at the bottom just to see if you're here. Thank you. I see Aiden is here. Robin, thank you very much, everyone. Hi, welcome to our first live streaming webinar from 10:05. We're super excited to have everyone here. We'll be joined by our participants in a short bit. This is our first time doing it, so please just bear with us. We'll get going as soon as possible. Let's just hang on. Nkabiseng is here. Hi. And Robin, there we go. Okay, let's just see here if we are all in the mix. Super. Robin, hi, can you hear me? Nkabiseng?
Hello.
Hi.
How's it?
I can hear you fine. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Great, thank you. Awesome.
Good.
Are you keeping safe?
Yeah, keeping safe, keeping indoors. Yeah, it's been an interesting time, I must be honest. Quite a scary.
Wild ride.
Yeah, it's been wild, eh?
There we go. Nkabiseng, we've got you.
Perfect. I was just trying to test the sound.
Yes. I'm going to lower everyone's hand. Can I get a show of hands if everyone can see the webinar screen? I'm also sharing my screen at the moment. I just want to see if everyone can. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Screen, I think.
Yeah.
Can you can see?
What is on your screen?
Okay.
So is it just the pictures of that?
Just the pictures, beautiful pictures of the best looking people in South Africa's creative landscape.
I don't know about that. But, yeah. A few of us there, but...
I'm looking at the right thing. What am I supposed to be seeing?
I mean, it's just a holding screen, actually. There's nothing fancy about it.
Let's do this. Let me try. What have I done?
I'm super excited for this. This is our first virtual roundtable format. We've done some of these events in the past physically, but it's really exciting to have such a big group of people joining us and also being able to do this virtually and just kind of continue with business as usual for the moment, which is great.
Amazing.
It is nice.
Yeah, it's the first time I've done one of these things too, so it's quite cool. I must be honest, excited.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna try to do more of them. Yeah. Let's just see here if we can get Neo and Grant in.
So what else have you guys been doing at 10 and 5 in this time of weirdness?
We actually shot our first webisode, like first virtual content piece 2 days ago. We're starting a brand new web show, all done virtually via Zoom. So we're should be ready to release that next week. And just kind of still keeping on producing content. Yeah, we still had some pictures come in. I'm just kind of reevaluating the team. Kind of the workflow really, but it's actually been quite easy for us. We've been fairly remote before anyway, so it's kind of been more the same actually.
Okay.
So quite not too bad actually.
Okay,
I just want to check here if Grant is struggling. No. Here we go. No.
Trying to get a picture of this.
Neo, how are you?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me? Is this sun too much?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Fine.
Where are you getting sun from? I've got no sun.
Sunshine, babe.
Let's see here. Are we still seeing? Where are we now? There we go. I think in the interest of, we're only 1 minute into our webinar so far, so nothing we're not too late just yet. Thank you everyone for dialing in. Thank you everyone for all our attendees. We've got about 68 people tuned in so far. So quite exciting. We actually do have a wider audience than just us four here today. Hopefully Grant joins us in a short bit too. Yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in. It's super exciting to have such a big audience listening to us, and hopefully we can share some cool insights to everyone, and hopefully have a great fruitful discussion today. We have some creative powerhouses here with us, so quite excited to see how we handle this actually. I'm going to start with some introductions while we wait for. Here we go. Here's Grant. Grant, how are you? Are you with us yet?
Yo,
how are you?
Hey.
I'm good, guys. I'm very good. I'm in hat because the barber is not an essential. What's under here is not fun. It's not fun. What's under this hat?
Look, a hat is just general wear for me anyway. So this is like uniform basically. We have a running joke like white guys basically wear black shirts and caps. That's like a standard uniform, and I'm kind of keeping with it. Okay, fantastic guys. We are ready to go. So thank you all for joining us for our first webinar, how creative agencies are coping in a time of Corona. It's been a huge blow to not just our industry, but obviously all the ancillary industries to the creative world. And I think we're all struggling a little bit with new forms of working, a depression in clients and kind of revenues, and just kind of trying to keep afloat and figure out what the next week looks like. It kind of feels like everything is changing hour by hour at this stage. And it's amazing to have 4 creative powerhouses here with us today. By way of introduction, I'm gonna do a little spiel for each of you. Neo Mashigo is the Chief Creative Officer for M&CSaatchi. What many people don't know is that he's also the co-founder of I See a Different You agency alongside Rio and Innocent. Neo is invested and heavily involved in SA's creative and advertising industry. He sits on the committee of Creative Circle and is a board member of the Lurie Awards. Before joining M&CSaatchi, Neo was the ECD at SCB Johannesburg and Ogilvy South Africa. He's won numerous awards for his work, not just on Nando's, Lucozade, but so many more above that too. Neo, thank you so much for joining us today. Nkabiseng Motau is the co-founder and chief creative officer of Think Creative Africa. She began her career 9 years ago at Ogilvy Johannesburg as an intern. Since then, Nkabiseng has been breaking ground when it comes to content creation. And in 2018, her agency won the Financial Mail ad-focused New Broom Award, which solidified her place in the industry. Nkabiseng has judged the Lurie's Young Can competition and Pendringer Awards. She also forms part of the Creative Circle Exco committee. Nkabiseng, thank you so much for joining us here today. Roanna Williams, Executive Creative Director for Black River FC. Roanna has over 20 years of brand communication experience and has won numerous awards from Lurie's, Canline, Apex's, One Show Pencils, D and APs, amongst others. Roanna has judged prestigious awards like the Lurie's and Creative Circle Awards as well. Grant Sithole has worked at FCB Africa, Ogilvy and Mather, Back One and Avatar. He recently joined Fox P2 as the ECD. Like the most of our panel speakers, he boasts a number of awards, D&D, Canline, Crystal, and so many more. He's done award-winning work for acclaimed brands like Wimpy, Coke, and many, many more. Fun fact, Grant was in Nkabiseng's CV at FCB before leaving to start her own creative hub in Creative Africa. So we have a collection of colleagues almost here. And of course, all 4 of our speakers here today have in some way, shape or form been involved with the Canline International Festival of Creativity, either judging or hosting or being panel leaders. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. So let me just see if I can run through just a quick little house rules first here. We're going to try to keep today's discussion to 45 minutes. That means we should end at about 11:15. There is a Q&A section open, so the panelists, all our attendees are free to ask any questions. So if you click on Zoom somewhere, I'm not exactly sure where it would be, somewhere probably at the bottom here, you can ask any questions, and then we'll field those questions to the panelists, and then our moderators will select the questions. I'm the moderator for today. Guys, thank you. So I think let's start off. I want to ask firstly, what is the current status quo? Have you is business as usual, or have you changed things dramatically? And what does remote work look like for you guys today? Roanna, can we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, it's not an easy time. I think there's a lot of fear going down amongst not only the clients but also amongst the people who you work with. But I think what's been an interesting part for me in this whole process is how creativity seems to be being suddenly recognized, and how the world is suddenly reaching out and saying, hey, we need creative people to help us, which I'm finding super exciting. But yeah, working remotely is, in itself is a challenge to keep your teams organized and together. What I'm trying to do is speak to each person like individually, do a one-on-one with them, just touch base with them, see how they're doing as an individual, because each person I think has different challenges, and we'll sort of navigate through this time, you know, independently, as depending on what kind of human being they are. So that's kind of been my approach. And then obviously we've got all the other, you know, technology stuff going, where we are Zooming and we creating a lot of WhatsApp groups and all that kind of stuff just to keep informed. But yeah, it's been an interesting time. We even had a pitch going down in this process to try and get the work out on time. You know, you've just got to sort of really package everything and be very, very kind of concise in terms of where we want to take it so everyone understands. Because if you're working, you know, solo, you need to know exactly what you have to do. So we've been doing that quite a lot. Yeah, but it's a challenging time. And like, as you said, it's like almost, it's in the now. You're doing work now, not, you know, the kind of the jobs that were in the system are on hold, and now you're doing work week by week. It's like, what is next? You know, we've got this happening. What are we putting out there? You know, so it's an interesting time. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many people in your agency are have moved to remote now?
All of us.
Are you kind of responsible?
Yeah, the whole agency. Yeah, so there's some of us have obviously a good internet connection and all that kind of stuff, and there's others who don't. So just to navigate that, and actually it was interesting, I was speaking to my PR lady this morning, and she said it would be, you know, it's interesting to hear our point of view, and I think it's really, really important in how we navigating this environment. But I think it's more important to speak to like juniors and see how they're navigating it, and to find, you know, their input into how they're finding the situation. Because I think the challenges are quite different. Yeah.
Now, if I can pass on to you, what does status quo look like for you guys at M&CSaatchi?
No, I think like it's been very interesting in the sense that as agencies, we've always had this discussion about people working from home or being able to work from wherever you work. And at M&C, because we work between the two agencies, the Cape Town and the Joburg campus, we are used to working on screens, you know, but it's not like everyone works on screens like this. But I think we had a head start. And when the conversation started on COVID-19, we automatically went and switched to Teams just to avoid, we started practicing what other countries were practicing before the president initiated the lockdown. So we said, should we go to a lockdown, we need to have rehearsed. So we kind of like did some drills, and like Roanna said, challenges are different. It's mostly for South Africa, it's the networks, and but work in the agency, we promised and committed to our clients that work will continue as it was, you know. So what happened is every brief you were working on, all of a sudden was put on hold, and a new brief went into the system because the conversation is completely different. And also, even when we come out of COVID-19, it's a new type of strategy that you have to implement because we are uncertain of what would the country's mood be And that's what we've been looking at, and like, how do we come out? And one of the big things that we identified around the lockdown is that even when people will get their salaries, there will be people around them and family and extended families that won't have money because of the lockdown. And we put together a relief fund as the agency just to help on medication and groceries. So if you have a family member, or you get your salary but your husband might not, so there will be that challenge, and we set aside a relief fund for those kind of scenarios. And then that's like the first step we did in like trying to help in the situation that the world is facing, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely been a case with briefs just kind of stopping and going, cool, we need to wait until the dust settles before we can actually move on again. Grant, what does the world look like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite clear that I think coming out of this, we're not ever going to work exactly the way we've been working up until now. And I think that is definitely starting to show now. So obviously, all of us have all gone to remote working. And across the both buildings, both Cape Town and Joburg. And yeah, I think all the things that have been mentioned are kind of in place. I mean, the big issue is people's connection, and I think it's one of those things that you never really. Well, we always spoke about it. We spoke about things like data must fall and all those things. But I think that it started to become real urgent now. And it's a real conversation that it's actually impacting the way we're getting things done. And I guess it's also, it's a part of all the stuff that kind of rolls into some of our societal issues that are coming to bear with this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, as far as kind of some of our clients are concerned, some of our clients have had to stop briefs, not necessarily put in new briefs, but just simply go, look, you don't have any revenue coming through now. Depending on what type of business that they're in, some just don't have any revenue coming through, so it makes no sense for them to be advertising. So it's an interesting time where we're helping some of our clients come up with solutions where they think there are none. We're having to our brainstorm sessions have had to take on a slightly different shape. In solving those business problems kind of first before just coming out with communications solutions, and that it's kind of worked out in places. It's worked out in places where some of the clients just kind of thought that nothing can be done, and we've helped them come up with some solutions that keep them thinking, keep them understanding that there's a sense of hope. But I mean, other than that, it's sure it's been checking in with each other. You don't realize how much you miss the people who talk shit at the office. And you really do. You don't realize. It's for all those days you think, I think I just want to go home. And then now that you're home, and you see how quickly you can go through some groceries, that you realize that maybe I should be at the office. But yeah, I mean, there's a really. I mean, we actually just had a staff kind of address a couple of minutes ago. There's a really big sense that everyone meets each other, kind of the physical contact. But I think other than that, we're working and we're getting things done for our clients.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big thing that we also have with our team. Some days are up and some days are down, and it's so hard to be able to emotionally check your team members when you don't always have that physicality and that co-location with people. But then again, some people are thriving in it. They get more done. I mean, it is a real reality to find yourself in a Zoom call from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Like that is also a reality that everyone must check for, right? Yeah. And Nkabiseng, what does reality look like for you guys?
So it's interesting to hear what everyone else is doing and like to see what the mirror moments are, because we're a significantly smaller team. We're about 10 people. And I think for us, the main thing is to like kind of keep our clients aware all the time that we can still pull the weight. When you're a small team already, there's thoughts around, are we going to be able to do things in certain timings and that sort of thing. So we've had to like kind of keep checking in with our clients, be on the Zoom calls with them, be on phone calls with them, even if sometimes it falls outside of talking about business, just checking in on them as human beings. Like, are you okay? We're still working. Here's what we can look forward to. But it has been challenging from a perspective of trying to flip things that were already in motion. For example, events that were meant to happen and trying to digitize that and getting everybody on the same kind of page around how that can happen and how that can still be interesting. So we've been like, it feels like we're working harder from home than we have from the office, because it's also hard to like draw boundaries, right? It's like, you're there, so why can't I call you? You know?
Yeah.
What else are you doing? So like, that's quite an interesting thing from a psychological perspective. We've had to also talk amongst ourselves as a team to be like, try and make your day a work day so that you're not burning out because you're completely available around the clock, but also trying to think on our feet, because every day, like every week, we have a new brief, or the brief that we were working on, we just submitted work and the client says, oh no, you know what, and also like empathize with their business problems that are also changing that quickly. So it's been like an exercise in a word that we love to use in advertising, being nimble. For what?
Yeah, Nkabiseng, we've lost you a little bit there. But that's, I can jump in, that's absolutely the case. I think ad agencies and creative agencies, we are there to solve, well, you guys are there to solve problems. It doesn't have to be just creative solutions in an ad campaign. It's sometimes, like Grant, you were saying, it's business solutions first, and how do we navigate this interesting world? Guys, we do have some really interesting, we do have some comments coming through. Nadia Padayachi saying, wow, I really appreciate the relief fund effort. Neo, that's for you guys. Guys, for the people listening in, please do use the chat and the Q&A functionality. It's really nice to see everyone kind of engaging and being part of the conversation. Touching on some of the stuff you mentioned now, what has been harder than you expected? What is one of the things that's like you thought was going to be easy, but it was harder than you thought it would be? Maybe this emotional check-in idea. Grant, anything on your side that's been harder than you expected?
Yeah, look, I think you know, the teams have all kind of it all intimated the fact that the brainstorming part was going to be difficult, because once again that you're not in the same room, but I mean, for me, I've always been the kind of person who like kind of brainstorms kind of solo, but I know that some people like the bouncing things off each other thing is how people work. So that's become difficult, and I think, yeah, I mean, the point that then Nkabiseng has mentioned about, you know, just not being able to switch off. And it's a very strange thing, because it feels like when you're in the office, you're able to kind of apportion time and even chase people out of your office and just kind of say, hey, I'm busy. But now it feels like now there's no way you can do that. It feels like if you're not managing that time properly, back to back, you are constantly talking to people about things. And I think then what happens is there's a weird byproduct of that becomes more meetings than actually doing the work. Right? Yeah. Because I think there's an anxiety that comes with like, what do I do now? Should I be doing this and all that? So everything just turns into reviews just last slightly longer, and then like and then like even just conversations that last slightly longer because people are not really sure what they're supposed to be doing. So that's a little difficult. But I think some things have, like I said, I mean, the fact that I can you know, have this conversation without pants on, that works. But I mean, I think other than that, I mean, it has its difficulties, but I think, like I said earlier, I don't think we're ever going to go back to working the way that we did before this. And I think that, you know, people who kind of feel like who are banking on us going back to that, this is the time to kind of learn how we're going to navigate stuff going forward.
Yeah, that is a funny thing with like the no pants thing. I wonder how many Zoom meetings I actually had without people having any pants on. We had one of our team members out of shirt. Yeah, I know. Who needs pants? Roanna, you mentioned that you had a pitch the other day that you did via Hangouts. Do you think that's a new reality? And what was it like? Can you explain it to us? What was it like? How did it feel?
Yeah, so we were lucky. We had one meeting where we could all get together before lockdown. So that was kind of like sort of on our second kind of review, which was, we were kind of almost there, but not quite. So we then had to obviously take it into lockdown. And I think what was really kind of challenging was that you couldn't just suddenly walk up to somebody and say, hey, you guys are doing this, you do that, this is where we're going with this. You know, you had to sort of really be quite thorough in terms of how, as an ECD, you kind of brought it all together and how you communicated with everybody as to where you're going, you know. So for me, it was just making sure all the bits and pieces got done was quite an interesting process, just via using technology. And obviously I felt that like Grant and everyone else was saying, you feel like you're working so much harder because there isn't that, okay, I drive to the office, I'm in the office, I will do my work hours and then I go home. It's like you're just in the office all the time. So we ended up working quite late, you know, and then the next minute you're looking at your watch, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh my God, okay, you know, maybe I should shut this office down. So there was that challenge. But interestingly, I think the pitch went well in the end, you know. Everybody just kind of took on the challenge and said, hell, let's just do this in lockdown. And the work was amazing. And I just got, you know, you get the art director sending you this, the copywriter sending you that, this one sending you that, and you're just kind of collating it all. And it worked out quite nicely in the end, I think, yeah.
And this is a question for everyone. Are there any specific tools and rhythms and practices that you're using to manage the teams remotely? I mean, on our side, we do all hands. We're a small team though. We do a daily Zoom call every morning at 9 a.m., 15 minutes, and then we're done. Are there any similar practices that you guys are doing? Maybe, Neo, maybe you can tell us how you guys are doing it?
Yeah. So what we did is firstly try and make it as normal as possible. So everything we had in place to allow us to connect with teams, we kept that consistent, and we became more adamant on those connections and touch points. Because I think that the thing you miss the most is, I think Grant touched on it, it's like as creatives, we feed off each other's energy. Even if you're not going to be talking too much about a thing, but just seeing someone else working next to you, or they're excited about an idea, that energy feeds off you. And that's kind of like what drives you. Even when you're brainstorming with someone, they might come up with a bad idea, but that idea triggers something in you that is a good idea, you know? And on the screen, we haven't learned that art form. And I think we are only learning it now to go like, how do you feed off someone on screen? You know, and I think that has been challenging. But we have, unlike most agencies, we have like weekly, so like there's this thing that we have called stand-up. And I haven't been a big supporter of stand-up, but it came in very handy now. Stand-up is like every morning the teams come and stand up with project managers and traffic, and they talk about what's on their plate, basically, if there's anything that you want to bring up or something you need help, So I called it like, it's like an assembly. I didn't get why we have to do that, but then now assembly is amazing because during that time you get to check in with everyone, you know. Then on Wednesdays we have breakfast, where the whole agency has breakfasts together. So we have breakfast now on Teams, and then Fridays we have.
You need to write that down for our agency.
What?
You need to write that down. This breakfast thing.
It's nice. It's nice. Yeah, this is the time for sharing, Grant. So and those moments they're very powerful, because like you can imagine when in a big agency you don't know everyone, you know. So, and like what happens with new people, we've got people that started like now on the first, and like this person is day one and they're just a face on a screen, you know. And you get to get a sense of where people's headspace are at, and we still have our inspiration sessions where it's like almost a way for people to get to know each other. So everyone gets to present what inspires them, whatever, anything you want to share with the agency. And now the different campuses had them separately. What we've started doing now is to introduce where we have one for all of the group. you know, and now it's allowed us to spread the love with everyone around the group.
It's almost made that you guys as an agency with different offices are no longer even in different offices.
Yeah.
You're even less different offices, even more. Grant, what are you guys doing to kind of any specific tools and practices that you're doing to build team cohesion?
Yeah. So
Apart from Zoom.
I mean, yeah, I mean, over and above just hanging out on teams together, I think yeah, it's been that much more important to check in on each other. So like we have started putting together a few kind of ways in which things like inspiration sessions, right? So like, there's actually one happening today at 3:30. So we actually just like, you know, when it's easy for you to kind of go out and just like, you know, find the gap to go and watch Tiger King and stay on your PlayStation. There are other ways in which actually getting away from the screen might actually be the best thing you can do for yourself. So things like that, and just kind of reminding ourselves and each other of how important it actually is to stay sane in all this. Because I think the mental health part of this thing is kind of, I feel like, sometimes overlooked, and it's going to be a really, really important part, especially when we do get to break out of this entire thing, how the condition of the state that all of us are going to come out in. So that those have become really, really important, you know, like just kind of sharing information on how you're spending your time, and how to actually kind of, you know, with us, a really, really important thing is kind of the human element, right? So just making sure that you're guarding your human side while we're still trying to make sure that all these things, while we're still trying to make sure the businesses are staying afloat. While we're trying to make sure that you're not dropping the ball on briefs and all those things, you need to still guard the human element and guard your space, and make sure that you know you're still making time for those things that make you happy. Because anxiety just really takes over. I mean, I used to play football at 6 a.m. Before all this, because I'm a crazy man who has also a bunch of crazy friends. But I miss that a lot, you know. And I think that I need to find ways to make sure that what I used to get from that I somehow make time for. In this time. So yeah, so the group has been...
You're now playing the fridge, Grant.
Let me tell you about the fridge, my man. League. It's the best league. It's an underrated league, that. So we're constantly checking in on each other's kind of mental well-being, and just making sure that we're still laughing. You know, I think, you don't realize how much less you talk and how much less you laugh when you're sitting by yourself and it's just you and the cheese, you know. It's just we're making sure that's taken care of.
Nkabiseng, I'm going to throw one more question related to the kind of immediate working environment to you, and maybe the other panelists can answer too. I read a great quote the other day that said that this is not a work from home situation. We are all working from home, but this is actually a work during pandemic situation, and those are two very different things. Yeah. Working from home means that there are certain things that you can still do. Grant, you can go play soccer in the morning. I think a large part of what people are coping with now is the reality that it's not just them that are working from home, it's their partners. There's that joke, they never knew their partner was I'll circle back, they never knew their partner was the circle back guy. And then also kids, right? Kids, I think that's a major part. We have a question from Sithole. How are you guys dealing with some of the creatives, your parents working at home, trying to juggle being 100% employee and 100% employee and 100% parent, because these lines are a bit blurred in the child's eyes. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any staff yourself in Nkabiseng that are parents as well?
I am the complete wrong person to ask. I honestly don't know. Our team is so young. We do have moms on our team as well, but with fairly independent children. So I'd be interested to hear from someone's perspective who has younger kids that need more attention during the day, how they're drawing that line. I'll tell you, I'm actually at my family house. So I didn't have to be by myself with the fridge in my flat. So I came to my parents' house. And that feels like having kids, because every 2 seconds they're like, come and look at this. Yeah. Don't you want to see this? I'm like, I'm working. So,
I mean, I can dive in on the parents thing. I've got 4 girls who are all at home at the moment. I've got all different ages. I've got a teenager. I've got a a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, and 8-year-old. And basically it's not easy, trust me, at all. You kind of becoming, you're trying to work as well as juggle homeschooling. And of course, like, I'm lucky, most of my kids are independent, but one isn't. So, but they keep coming and asking you constantly for assistance. And it's quite a juggle. And it's kind of interesting though, because the schools have, I'm a privileged, speaking from a privileged perspective, is the schools have been quite good at it. And just to see how they've adapted to try and do it online. It's been quite interesting. They even do Zoom. They're doing a Zoom session now. Actually, I hear them in the background here, a grade 3 class. They all have Zoomed in, which is quite interesting. But it's not easy to juggle both at all. It's quite a challenge, yeah. And I must say, one other thing which helps with this, I've used in this whole kind of lockdown thing, is WhatsApp groups. For each job we've been doing, we've set up a WhatsApp group with a team on that. And that just helps with day-to-day sort of communication, quick, instant action. So that's worked wonders, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to some of the more work-related stuff. We have Tando and Corsi who's asking, my question has to do with the eventing and experiential industries. I'm interested in knowing thoughts on how we should strategize around this. It's been an enormous challenge for agencies that offer the service. Obviously, experiential industry has been gutted. On our side as well, being able to shoot, just being able to go out and shoot stuff has also dropped dramatically. But I think especially for those agencies that were relying on physical events, how or at least that is an extension of a brand, and how a brand kind of puts itself out in the world. What has your responses been around kind of mitigating around any of that? Anyone have any answers?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to put it to you. Nkabiseng, yeah.
We've had 2 scenarios with the experiential kind of work. One where we've completely lost the work because the events are simply not happening and clients aren't interested in revising. They would rather dedicate the budgets probably to other things pertaining to surviving the pandemic. And then we've had other scenarios where clients have asked us to reimagine the experience. So what do we do with people to give them the experience we were intending to give them with a live event? And that's been an interesting challenge and an interesting brief. I think the expectations quite interesting, because while some parts of the country feel very tech savvy and tech ahead, other parts of the country are still like quite a challenge from a data and technology perspective, hardware, I mean. So trying to balance those 2 things out and try and serve both clients that can, or consumers that can access rich digital media, and consumers that can't, has been like a real brainstorming challenge. And we're actually busy with trying to reimagine an awards event for a client. So that's been like quite interesting. So where clients are interested, we've also tried to encourage them to look at it differently. How can we bring this experience online? People are bored. They do want the recognition still. They do want the connection. They do want the entertainment, but they can't be in person together. So let's not take the thing away from them. Let's try and give it to them in another way, which is what we're busy with now. But it has been difficult in the scenarios where we can see and the client can see that there's just no way to save the experience, and therefore had to cancel and look at losing that revenue potentially for the whole year if we are unable to do these events at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely changed the way the kind of the planning of these things has gone now, right? I mean, all the way from, I mean, I saw before there was a hard lockdown, the bookmarks essentially happened online, right? Yeah. And they had to shoot kind of the presentation of the awards themselves with that dude from SABC3 kind of handing out awards while lying on the sand in the beach, you know. So it's had to change, you know. And I think that, you know, where people like, we have to kind of look all around us for what the solutions are going to be. People like Channel O and all those people that have just started, what just seems like what they're calling parties, online parties, might turn into a brand new platform going forward. You know, I was just telling someone yesterday about, you know, people after this, there's no reason why clubs, for example, can't be broadcasting to your house before you go to the club on a Friday night, right? Why you can't pre-taboo at your own house before you go to taboo? So it feels like there are a whole lot of solutions that are starting to present themselves and they're going to become bigger things later. But I think we're all going to have to look. I mean, I think I saw another thing where M&CSaatchi actually got people to pay per household to have a concert in your house, right? So somehow you got a ticket, and then the concert itself will be beamed into your house, kind of depending whether you bought a ticket or not. So the solutions are coming up, like you said. There's no such thing as wasting a good crisis. So we come up with all kinds of solutions that we might be using after this as well. So I mean, I don't know if I have any new answers to that question, but I think things are coming up. Things are happening in the background.
No, I was just going to say, like, there's also another part to eventing where your event is not happening right now, but you are dabbling between, are we going to come out of the lockdown? And after coming out of the lockdown, will people be happy to go to an event? Or are people still going to be staying away a bit, to be sure that, they are safe? And like the Luris is one of those events, which is usually later on in the year. But if you're looking at like 3 months from now, you have to consider properly whether you still keep it going. And also, events are also affected by clients' budgets and agency budgets. So when you've got entries, you have to consider every FD right now, and every agency is receiving emails of going, can we get a deferred payment? Can we cut this? Like, everybody's just cutting. And that has implications for even events that are going to happen later in the year. So it's a risk that you have to consider properly as an event, to go, do we have this event and will we have people attend? And that's where we are sitting with that debate, and we're having like workshops around how do we create an opportunity out of that, And I think it's the challenging is how we get the economy running and how do we instill confidence in our clients to go, it's going to be fine. And I think that as a society, we have to have that mentality, because if we are slow in adjusting back, it's going to make things even slower. So it's how do we do that thing as different industries?
I think that
sorry, I was going to say, I think it is an exciting time. I know it's hard on a lot of these experiential companies and the events guys, but what is exciting is it is an opportunity to reinvent themselves a bit more. And I think, again, it can come from us. How can we come up with interesting, like, it's a business solution in many ways. How do we reinvent that space for the time being?
This whole thing around consumer demand afterwards is whether we see it's a 21-day lockdown or if it's going to be a longer lockdown. I think there's two factors that play in consumers' demand for going out. One is, are they going to feel safe to still go into public spaces? And the second is, if they're going to have the money. Will they have the money to be able to go out and buy stuff? And cool, Nike's dropping a brand new Air Force One, but does that mean that people necessarily have the money to go and buy that? I think that consumer demand is the thing that brands are going to be struggling with. That's really going to come out in the wash in the short-term future. Robin Khan here has a great question. And I think this kind of leads into that, right? So the idea of clients not really knowing what their future is, they're holding back money. We've had some clients who held back money because on a campaign, because they were unsure if they were able to pay their staff salaries. It's a fast food chain. If they were going to be able to pay their salaries in the next 2-3 months, because they just want to know that they have that cash in reserve as opposed to spending that on marketing. Robin asks, support and connections for creators and agencies is one thing, but how do we freelance creatives stay supported if we are on our own in this? No briefs, all work cancelled, no earnings, no UIF, freelancers don't qualify. Any advice on how freelancers can stay positive and creatively awake amidst the reality of being out there on our own. I think this is a very real reality for a lot of people. A large portion of South Africa's creative workforce is made up of freelancers. And I can imagine on your side as well as agency leaders, the immediate thing to do is to kind of look after your own first, and all external payments or all external kind of money flowing out, you try and keep that in as much as possible. What has been the reality for you guys in that? Have freelancers still been getting a lot of work from you, or has it kind of, have you tried to keep that in-house?
So,
I think,
yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of freelancers that have actually contacted me over the last few days. And yes, there isn't that much work to go around just because clients are holding back on their budgets. But I think what it is, it's a time for freelancers again to become very proactive with how they approach work. And it's maybe for them to almost pitch ideas and solutions rather than just sitting on the bench and just saying, oh, you know, what are you guys going to do? So they need to help themselves. It's a time where we all have to help ourselves, unfortunately, and we have to, you know, get out there and see what is it, how can I add value? It's a different environment at the moment, and it's going to be extremely challenging. So the more proactive you can be and the more forthright with solutions and ideas and your creativity, the better. So that's what I would say to the freelancers out there. Make yourself invaluable. Like you have to bring the value to the table. That's what you have to do, I think. Yeah.
Neo, how are you guys approaching freelancers?
I think we took a stance on like we have quite a number of freelancers in the agency before the lockdown and during the lockdown, and we go freelancers will get all benefits that our staff gets, because we even before the lockdown we'd expect them to do the same for us. And what was going to happen is probably the work won't stop now, but like 2 months from now, that's when, because FDs are going to go, where do we cut budgets? You know, you go freelancers, award show, events, any other thing where it's going to be seen as it's not an essential service, you know, and that's where you're going to cut. And that's, I think there's still time for freelancers to go into, if I was a freelancer, I would go and negotiate my new terms, considering what the lockdown is. I would go to people that I work with regularly or people I like working with and go, I know that it's a tough time and I know that there will be some work somewhere there. I'm willing to negotiate my terms like this to continue working with you. And also the proactive ideas to agencies on solutions, because right now we all clients and we all need some form of solutions, and that's where you probably can make money from selling ideas directly.
Yeah. Grant, what does Fox V2's freelance world look like?
Yeah, it's exactly that, right? So I think, you know, it really does depend on well, it's what the times kind of dictate, right? So we don't have like a really large creative team, but at the same time we do get to use freelancers every now and then. The number of briefs has changed, right? So and all this has financial implications, and you know the truth about it is the fact that getting freelancers has a huge financial implication, but at the same time, you know, the other truth about it is that because a lot of the clients have already also started understanding that there is some kind of work they need to be doing, that some briefs are still coming through, right? So I wouldn't give up entirely and feel like it's not going to happen. You know, we've called 1 or 2 already, and I think that there is Neo's right. I think the real problems are going to probably start 2 or 3 months from now. But immediately there is an influx of some briefs from some clients who are saying, okay, I need solutions for this, I need solutions for that, and the productivity that comes from freelancers with ideas for business solutions and ideas for maybe where you might not have seen a gap, you know, it's always going to be welcome. And this is, you know, there's a lot of time to have conversations now. There's a lot of time to just, you know, kind of pick up your phone and call ECDs, call creatives that you know, and try to understand what the issues are that they're dealing with and try to come up with those solutions. Roanna's point is right. We are all kind of in hunter mode now. We have to be. And freelancers have to get into super hunter mode pretty much is the mode that we're all in right now.
Yeah. See, Robin here does have a response. Stylists are not able to work from home, and there's no value to bring if they can't do that. So all their shoots are canceled. It's a very, very real reality. I think this is one of those things where trying to diversify skill sets becomes a very important part, where you're not physically able to go and do the work. I think a lot of DOPs and camera operators are sitting in the same position. They physically can't go out and shoot stuff. It's tough. Nkabiseng, how are you working with freelancers at the moment?
Yeah, so freelancers have always been key to sort of our growth and how we operate and how we scale ourselves for larger projects. So it's kind of core to how we operate anyway. But as most of the guys are saying, briefs have changed, the number of briefs have changed. The way that clients are looking to do work sometimes is like really fast and cost effective. So we are having challenges there. That said, we do have freelancers that are more on a permalancer kind of basis. So they're from content creators who are writers for the various online writing platforms that we manage for clients that are still on, because fortunately the work that we do on digital and social has been kept, clients have kept the briefs on and everything is still flowing there. So we are able to still keep those people in those contracts. So that's been quite a blessing. But, I think about people like stylists and, as you say, DOPs, and I have very few ideas around how to deal with that. We have no shoot work to give those kinds of individuals at the moment. And it's quite a difficult time from that perspective. But we are trying to keep working with the ones that we've been working with on accounts that are still active at the moment. Yeah.
Torello Ntamo here says, I'm on client side and we had to claw back most of our budgets from our agencies because we don't know what the other side looks like. We stopped strategy planning too. We're just planning for how we can help the country during this time, but we don't know what the other side after helping the country looks like. How are creatives super-proofing themselves to ensure that they still remain an essential part of the new, not future-proofing themselves to ensure that they still remain an essential part of the new normal? I think this is a very valid, real reality for a lot of people, that the budgets are being clawed back. They're kind of being held off and said, we want to do other work first before we can actually get to our marketing. But Nkabiseng, again, like you say, I think that there's our approach to this is that there's almost a blue ocean of opportunity that awaits the people that are still marketing and the people that are still busy doing stuff and making things and being active participants in society. I think that we shouldn't be sitting on our hands doing nothing, creating something of value that gives back to the community and gives back to the country. And at the same time being relevant and maintaining a presence is super important. So it's not the time to be stopping to do anything. And if anything, we should be doing more, maybe just more personal work at the end of the day. Had a great question here from Jabs. I wanted to find out how all speakers on the panel feel about all brands tagging along the social media challenges and live chats. And does the panel feel like these brands are resonating with the target markets during the pandemic? Or is it all just a hoax, or not a hoax, but all just a fad to be popular? And is it basically window dressing? Roanna, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is quite important, I think, at this time, because yes, I feel like there are some brands out there that are just sort of tagging onto it and not really resonating with the actual issues at hand. It's like, this is not a time to be selling products at all. This is a time to help humanity. And brands that are doing that effectively, you can feel it in the work that they're doing. So yeah, you've got to be careful as a brand as to how you put your message out there, because not all of it's going to resonate. And you can feel that people are just jumping on the bandwagon and trying to say, oh yeah, we all, we helping people, but you don't really feel it. It's those brands that are actually saying, you know what, how can I actually really help? Like I found, there's a couple that are out there. The one was, I think it was New Balance. I saw the other day where they stopped production line and they started making masks. And I thought that was really, really nice. There's Zara, who also stopped their production line to make, I think it was masks and stuff for the hospitals. I think those sorts of things are really, really important at this stage, is how can brands really, really help? It's not about pushing books. It's not about that at the moment. At the moment is how do we get life going again to some form of, you know, humanity, form of, you know, normality, and that's important. Yeah,
it's a crazy catch-22, I find, because I think that, you know, we all kind of sit and we go, you know, it's the middle of a pandemic, or, you know, you're choosing to sell in the middle of like this crisis. Yet at the same time, we're also all completely worried about the economy still kind of taking over, right? So and at the same time, there's this whole thing about, you know, I mean, there are more important things that you should be putting on TV. Yet we also all know that people are sitting at home binging and eating their fridges out, right? So what we need to know is, like, so you need eating my fridges out sound like something completely different. I'm sorry I said that. So I think that it's critical that brands also, that we also understand that brands want to remain top of mind for some of those decisions that people are making as well. You know, so I think that it's become such an important time for tone. You know, it's become critical in how you speak to people about what you do and how you're going to be doing it. It becomes easier when you're also doing things like doing like real impact, like changing your production line in order to make masks, so that when you do come out and you say that, you know, I'm also doing this kind of thing that I know you're going to need while you are quarantined at home, then it makes sense to me. You know, so I think it's going to be like the teamwork between agencies and clients right now. It's going to be so important to tone check ourselves. Where like it's critical for someone to, for example, know that they can still pay employees, because we are also talking about you should still pay your domestic worker even though they're not coming through, right? But if you don't know that you can do that via a banking app, then we all just sitting on our hands, like you said, you know. So it's going to be really important how we balance what it is that we're saying and the tone with which what we're saying. But a total kind of blackout of communication, if it's not just COVID-19, is also a little irresponsible on our part. And I think that we need to find a way to have that conversation together.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I think also, just to add another view on this, is that I have been finding the messaging very boring. You know, you watch you turn on your TV, the news, journalists, doctors, packaged information that speak about COVID-19 and in well thought through detail. And then when an ad comes on, it's an ad that's speaking about COVID-19 again. Mm. And in a 30-second rushed format, you know, that is like clubbed things put together, image bank footage and stuff. And I feel like we are going to, we as brands, we lose the opportunity there by repeating the same message. You know, there is a drive to go. We need to teach people stuff. People need to learn about what to do, how to handle it. And I feel like we all driving exactly the same message. And for me, the message has been self-isolate, social distancing, wash your hands, don't touch your face, right? But I think there is a bigger message that we are not seeing or talking about, is what happens in your household when someone has COVID-19. That message is not being shared. To go, what do you do? Here is your wife has it. What do you do? You know, because psychologically, you can imagine what starts to happen to people. We've seen how it happens with like neighbors when they find out that, oh, our neighbor that side has it. So you can imagine now you have to live with it, and they're not dying. They just tested positive, you know,
yeah.
And we haven't gotten to that space. And I think as a country, it's going to be more important because we don't have the luxury of having space and rooms. Most of the country they're sharing a 4-roomed house with 8 people, 10 people, you know. Yeah. I'm not even talking squatter camps. I'm just talking normal township. And we haven't started sanitizing people to around how do you do this thing? How do we navigate ourselves around the space? But I think brands, it's important to stay true to who you are as a brand. Even when you're talking in the time of the pandemic, you speak like who you are as a brand, and you stick to that. And don't rush to repeat messaging and to be seen as you are doing your part. And I think most brands are doing a lot of good stuff behind the scenes without, people knowing about it. Like, I think like South Africa has done very well where like brands have come together to go, we are all in this. And I love the fact that this is one time where there is no separation in terms of aim, in particularly for South Africa. It's everybody understands fully how it affects all of us, whether you are rich or poor, whether you belong to that political party or the other.
Yeah.
You've seen it with brands, Pick and Pay, Spar, Woolworths, clubbing together to make one ad. It's like, it's a good sign of the space we're probably going to move towards once we come out of this.
Yeah. I also think just one more element around the challenges specifically and brands adding their voice to that. The reason why the challenges are so viral and they're so exciting to people like myself is because they are fun, right? They're entertaining and we're bored at home. So if brands want to participate, they have to show up in a way that's interesting and entertaining. And I want to pick up my phone and do that thing that makes me look silly on Instagram. That's what it's about. So if you can package part of the message about COVID or even the message about your brand or product in a fun and interesting way, trust me, I will pick up my phone and make a silly video. So I don't think it's necessarily insensitive because people are at home, they're hungry for entertainment, they're hungry for things to do. If brands can play that role, entertainment is also critical at this time for, mental wellness and just helping people to laugh, and feel okay for like 5 minutes. So I think that's also one of the ways that brands can bring themselves to the conversation without being a complete cringe as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And it's finding that balance, right? It's finding the balance between kind of selling and being engaged with the audience and having being an entertaining property or entity, but then also kind of actually realizing the impact and the gravity of the situation. And those two things can happen at the same time. And I saw one of our internal briefings the other day, one on a typically cheeky fast food brand, said this is not the time for them to be poking fun at other brands. This is the time that they are together with other brands making a positive change on society. And I think that's an amazing approach to it. Guys, we are going to run out of time.
How do you feel about that?
Hey?
No, how do you feel about that?
I think like I say,
what's your TikTok challenge?
No. I had somebody speak about it on another webinar, and I was like, yeah, it's fine if you are true to who you are.
Exactly. Don't change your personality all of a sudden.
Fine.
Yeah, that's right.
We can't all be the same. We can't be parenting each other on how we must behave. No, do you? You can be boring forever. It's fine.
Yeah, but I think it's exactly that. I think it's exactly that, though. No, and I think it goes back to the point that Nkabiseng was making as well. Like we could all sit here and be somber about this entire thing. It is a big deal, guys. No one understates how important this thing is, and that people are actually dying, and that's probably also the right time for us to actually be bringing people's spirits up as well. And it takes all types of things to bring people's spirits up without being disparaging, without being an asshole. But I mean, if you want to, if you can go there because you've been going there all along, then I don't see why not. Anyway, yeah.
Absolutely. So, guys, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you very much to the audience. Can we get a show of hands quickly if we want to see Neo doing a TikTok challenge sometime in the future? Please raise your hands.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think that is. We have about 31, 32. I think we're going to get to 100%. Neo, we're sending you that TikTok challenge soon. Nkabiseng is going to do it for us.
And people have been sending me that stupid push-ups challenge. Good work. I'm part of the essential services. I'm helping save the country. You want me to do push-ups?
See, everyone gets swole after this lockdown. Yeah. Thank you so much. We have had so many great questions come through, but unfortunately not enough time. I think that there's definitely a demand for more of this. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We definitely want to do more. We're going to rope in more of the creative industry with us. Next week, we hope we get to chat to some freelancers and other people that are doing the push-up challenges and all the other creative challenges that exist. So thank you, everyone. This webinar will be up on our YouTube channel within the day. Thank you guys again so much. Thank you to our audience and to all our panelists today. It's been great. This is our first one, so thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.
All our
Bye. Bye.
Cheers.